Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I have an opportunity to look at why fishing reels fail and whether they can get a second chance or not. Now, the majority of these, all but one, actually were sent in by a viewer, Bobby. He's out of Tennessee, and Bobby purchased a lot, L-O-T, but also a lot in terms of quantity of fishing reels from a fellow that, well, he was selling them at flea markets. And they've come in a variety of states of disrepair. Some of them actually work. And he sends them to me, kind of seeing if we can give them a second chance, if we can also do a little video on it if they are repairable. And I think with these, I've called them Bobby's junk reels. I'm not quite sure whether we're going to be able to save them or not, but we'll go through each one. We'll look at the failure or the cause of failure or the suspected cause of failure, talk a little bit about what it will take to get it a second chance, and well, we'll see if we can get any of these back to Bobby to take fishing. So we're going to start by looking at several of these. I think he sent 5 or 6 in 2 different boxes, and what we'll do is we'll kind of do a diagnosis and we'll look at common failure points and whether it's easier or it's hard to resolve. And, well, let's see what we have. Before I get started, though, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button to let you know when I'm posting. And, well, when I post, you'll see whether that's something that, well, makes sense to learn about, or if it's something that, well, you just don't care about, and that's fine. There's all types of reels that I service. A lot of these are classic or vintage. Some of them are the most common or current ones. And subscribing to the channel will give you a view into all of those, and you'll have the opportunity to decide whether you like them or not. Well, this one is it's a classic baitcaster reel. Let's see if we can find a name on it. We can. This is the Shakespeare President 1970 Model GD. So Model GD, many of you know Shakespeare used an alpha code for the years, and Model GD would be 1947. Well, this one's in pieces and parts, and I wish I could say that I knew by memory what all these pieces and parts were. So let's take a look at some of the key components of this, and we'll see if we we'll have the opportunity to put this one back together again. So we do have a handle assembly and a main gear that's going to go inside here. We have a spool that has a pinion gear on it, so we have the drive plates for this. We would want to find if we have the line guide and the pawls. We do. And it looks like the reel is probably complete. Just check to make sure that that one is here. It is. So I think there's a good chance that this one can be put back together and made operational. This is one thing that the Shakespeare reels had at the time, which may or may not cause it to be an issue, and that's these plastic plates. Some of the times you find these in rubber. And, well, if these are cracked, it makes it very difficult to get the spacing right. But I think we've got a chance with this one. So a little bit later, another video, we'll go ahead and we'll do a reel in a bag project on this one. We'll see if we come up short. I think we've got the majority of them. So let's move on to the next reel that he sent in. So a lot of times you just sit there and kind of shrug and wonder out how did it come to be? And what's the corrective issue? Because, well, most of the times this means that somebody started a project and either found something missing or they lost track of how they were doing the assembly, and, well, that caused them to kind of give up on it and just store it in a bag. So I'm not sure which ones that is, and I guess we'll find out some more. Well, here's another one along that same line. This one is a Rodimatic. It's a 601-B. Again, we have a bag with some of the side plate screws. And unfortunately in this one, we have a broken line guide, and I don't see the line guide shield for this one. But I do see in here we have the 2 bars with the stems out. Well, that means that was a broken weld. So we may be able to make the line guide work, but there's usually a shield that goes between the two. I don't see that. I also see a bent plate that can usually be pushed in, but without that line guide, that's probably, if you had the line guide, it would probably put the pressure on that side, but in this case it's not. So I don't know about this one. And this one kind of tells you a little bit about how the reel was made. That's a steel spool. It was metal plated. It's lost its plating and it's rusted. So I'm not quite sure where he found this, but you can see the reel seat is rusted as well. And that kind of gives an indication about what the pricing of that reel would be. It would probably be relatively inexpensive. I don't know what date the reel goes to, but again, we'll see. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, if you leave those questions in the comment section, I will try to get you an answer on them. Well, the next one up is a Gladding. It's a South Bend reel. South Bend was an independent company out of South Bend, Indiana. It made a lot of the reels like we were just previewing there, a lot of the early baitcasters and the like. And I think it was right around 1961, but it might have been 71. I have to go back and check my histories on this one. South Bend became acquired by the Gladding Company. Gladding was known before then and known today for twine and roping and, well, fishing reel too. Well, this one is from the Gladding Corp, so it's maintained the South Bend name, but it was made by Gladding, and Gladding was in New York. And, well, what happened was this reel was made until Gladding went bankrupt as a South Bend reel. And then once Gladding went bankrupt, that was in the 80s, I believe, the brand was again sold, and I think it belongs to a company out in the Chicago area now. So you'll still find the South Bend brand, much like you'll find the brands of, well, Mitchell and some of the others that are defunct but were purchased by other companies like Pure Fishing. This one has the eared on it for the bail, so if you pull this back, you have safe storage for transit. You won't break that bail. Looks like the bail's a little bit out of whack here. It belongs in that hole there. This may just simply be a case of having to rebend that bail wire. Let's give it a test. It's certainly cranking forward. A little bit of a knock. Cranking backwards. Okay, we don't have an instant anti-reverse on this. Now, interestingly enough, I just did a reel. I did an eagle claw reel. Same problem. We didn't have an anti-reverse. Turns out that the anti-reverse dog was frozen with grease. Maybe we'll get lucky on that one. So how do we solve this one? We rebend the bail wire so that it sits nice and tight inside here. And we open up the case, see if that spring is still in here. Maybe we can pull a schematic on it. Some of the older sites like ORCA, the Old Reel Collectors Association, which requires a membership. I think the membership's $40 a year. But one of the benefits of that one is they have a library for the vintage reels. And a lot of the schematics, possibly this one, is in that library. And that will tell you what the reel's spring looks like. And, well, you might be able to fashion one if you can't find one. And, well, we'll see. But I think this one and that first reel in the bag project actually have a chance of getting set up again. All right, well, he sent me in another reel. This is a Shakespeare reel. I can tell from the one side. We have a Shakespeare reel that's missing a bail. We also have a Shakespeare reel that's missing a spring. The spring belongs on this side. We have a guide, and we have a screw, but we're missing the spring that's going to drive this reel. So this is one where it's a Shakespeare 220. It's a small ultralight. I believe it was made by Omori in Japan. It says Japan on it. We're going to have to find a donor reel for that. You won't find that spring around. But if we can find a donor reel for it, we got a good chance to reattach the bail. We'll have to find a little screw that, or a little nut that fits that side, and the spring to drive it. So that one's got a 50-50 chance. Now I do have a little bit of a collection of some broken reels. I'll have to see if I have one of them. I kind of doubt it, but well, we'll see. Next one up then, we have a Lew's speed spool. This is a relatively newer reel. This one has, looks like it has everything it's needed to drive. It looks like it's a complete reel, but if I remember from Bobby, the bail is not tripping. And first thing you want to find out is, do you have a spool that flips? And it doesn't. So there's another issue with the spring for this. Now, this one we're going to have to open up to find out what the spring is. There's two common sets of a spring. One of them is a circular spring, and the other one is a post type of a spring. We're going to have to open it up. This one too, if you notice, it says fold. If you push this button in, I believe, you can do the same thing you did on that south bend. You can collapse the bail, and that will enable you safe storage. But right now we don't have a spring that's keeping tension on it, so that won't fire. So we're going to have to take a look, see what we got there, and possibly save that. Also, this reel is not as old as the others. There's a chance that we might be able to find a replacement bail spring for that one. That's going to be critical. Okay, we got one more reel here from Bobby. It's another Shakespeare reel. Actually, we got two, maybe one. See what we have. So this is the 2200. We just saw the 2000. Same issue with the bail, only this one's got the spring inside of it. And we have a couple of bails here. I guess that means you didn't know which one would be able to fit on it. And I'm only going to guess that there might be one here. We're going to have to see. But I think that's why those are sent in as a possible match to that. And again, I mentioned he bought a lot of reels, maybe 100 reels, 200 reels. I don't know. It was an awful lot of reels from what I recall. And when he did those, I'm sure he had some donor reels in there. That's probably where some of these pieces came from. And well, we're going to see what we can do to put them back together again. Finally, this one is not from Bobby. This one came in from Michigan. But this one also has kind of a common failure on reels. This is a Shimano AX. It's a ball bearing, kind of an ultralight. It's the 1000 AX. It's running, but if you hear, it's got a click. And it doesn't have an anti-reverse. So we'll put the piece in the off position and the click goes away. This is an anti-reverse override here. The click goes away. Well, if the click goes away, but you hear it here, it's usually that when it's trying to engage the anti-reverse, something's not holding. And there's a single stage on this one. It should always return to that position so that you can use the easy cast to go. I wonder if it trips. I'm not seeing a trip. Oh, there you go. So it should always return here. So it's a little bit of a different anti-reverse setup, but it is controlled by a spring. And hopefully that spring has just become detached. Maybe somebody tried to do a service on it, and it kind of failed that way. But regardless, this one we should be able to give a second chance to. And again, there's a lot of these reels out there in the marketplace. A lot of parts reels are available if you can't find the part itself. And this one's got a chance to be repaired. So a little bit of a look at, well, things that you might come across in flea markets. You need to be aware of what the conditions are. So test all of the reels that you're going to acquire at a yard sale, flea market, whatever the type of sale is that you find in your neighborhood. Take a look at it and try and do an assessment before you purchase the product. Because after you purchase the product, you may find out, well, parts are not available for it, or something is missing, and well, that's going to prohibit you from from getting that reel going again. So I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of some insight into this. And again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. I will try to answer them for you. And I'll try and do a couple of videos on these to see if we can't give them a second chance. To all of our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you do to keep us safe. We do appreciate all that you do. To everyone, keep your reels in tune, take care of them, tune them up, give them their annual service, and by all means, take them fishing. That's what they were designed for. So give them a second chance. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.